Hey everybody, so this is our second live stream. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully the audio and everything sounds good, and it should be the same as it was last time. So if you guys can comment, and if you want us to either increase or decrease the volume, we can always do that. But hopefully this stream will go well. Everything so far worked fine, so hopefully it'll do fine.
All right. Well, a little bit of an update. Since the last video, I had been hinting at the video that we're working on very actively right now, and we made a lot of progress. There's been a lot of physical labor as well as just dealing with some of the details. And one of the things that I found pretty interesting is we're working on the video that I had promised a year ago we would show about how to enhance the performance of air conditioners, how to make them more efficient. And with the heat that we're experiencing here in the Northeast, I really want to get this done quick. But the point is, I discovered a few interesting things that I didn't quite appreciate the magnitude of when I was originally researching them. But we're trying to manage to dump heat into the ground, basically a geothermal type of situation where you can do it yourself, basically something that you can do by hand, and still retain a lot of the benefits that you get from geothermal heat systems like heat pumps. And the research that I had been doing and sort of off and on had put on the back table was the interface materials. What do you use when you build these things besides just digging a hole and putting a tube in the ground? And there's a lot of science behind that, and it's actually a very active area of research because it's one of the Achilles heels of these systems. If you can imagine, you're trying to dump heat from a very small system, let's say a cooling tube, or you've got a heat pipe running down into the soil and into the ground, and you want to distribute that very highly conductive fluid heat through its very highly conductive container into very low conductivity ground. And the secret is the ground's got to be big. You got to spread that heat out over a very large area. And using things like sand or clay, they work, but they're not that effective. And so the research I was doing this last week involving some laboratory testing was additives that can be placed in the backfill mud that enhance the thermal conductivity of the mud. And it's subtle. At first, a lot of recommendations were that you should add some plastic materials or some organic types of materials. Mostly these are used for structural purposes. But the primary material that seems like it's going to be the wave of the future is carbon-based materials, either carbon nanotubules, carbon graphite, graphene. And graphite turns out to be remarkably effective. I mean, not just a little bit, but it can triple or quadruple the thermal effectiveness of this mud. And so by making up different mixtures and different types of concentrations and trying to minimize the somewhat more expensive graphite, we were able to triple the thermal conductivity of the material and still make it very workable and easy to place into the boreholes. And so you're going to see all of that process in the upcoming video in the next week or 10 days or so. But I just wanted to give you an idea that I think that is probably going to be one of the more important parts of the video, and it was remarkably effective. 5% graphite tripled the thermal conductivity of typical geothermal backfill mud compounds. And with that kind of performance, that's why you're going to see the sort of performance that we've been seeing in the testing. So hopefully you'll check in with us on that video, but I'm jacked about this. I really think this is going to be one of our most significant videos because it can save a lot of money and make these systems a lot more efficient.
And how deep were you able to get the auger to go?
We got down to about imperial, probably about 8 feet, enough to bury a body. But you really don't need to go quite that deep. We overdid it, but as it turns out, the overdoing of the hole is actually going to prove to be valuable for us because the argument is You want to make it as small as possible so you can do it yourself. But at the same time, the bigger it is, the more efficient it is. And where that transfer of advantages and disadvantages comes was at a slightly shallower depth. But I told the guy that was helping us with this, it's like, if you can go down a little bit deeper, it's not going to hurt. And so we went down pretty deep. And that's why it took us a long time to refill it.
Do you think it's still like very cost effective though to hire an auger to be able to make a bigger hole and, you know, save, you know, 8 hours versus using some shovels? Or...
My estimate would be that you could have dug the hole with shovels in probably about 2.5 to 3 hours if you used a shallower hole and a broader hole that
Sure.
two guys could get into.
Yeah.
But the auger made sense only because he was already there. We were having some work done on some fencing, and so we had the equipment there. And so it just took him 25 or 30 minutes to punch the hole down. And it did save us, you know, the extra back labor that we then had to invest when we refilled it. So I'm glad we had him do it.
Yeah.
But if you had somebody come by to do this, I would estimate the cost would be about probably about $200 to have somebody professionally do this, aside from the bringing and taking away of equipment. So it depends on where you live and how accessible your property or the site is, whether or not you do want to do this by hand or not. But I'd actually recommend considering doing this by hand, because that really nails home the idea that you don't have to use a lot of high-tech or professional skill sets to get this kind of project done. The whole thing is, can you do it yourself, and can you do it cheaply, and then can you save money for the amount of effort that you've invested? Is it an effective way to do this?
And if you were going to do it again, do you think you would still use PEX tubing, or do you think there's another option that you could use that might be more flexible or something like that? Because that was a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, that stuff is remarkable. Like, you know, you see it hanging in the store, and I've seen it all over our house. I mean, it's in our air conditioning systems in the house, and, you know, with water handling. I didn't realize how obstinate it is. Even copper is sort of easier to deal with, because once you bend it, it stays in that bend.
Yeah.
But this is sort of a memory foam kind of thing, so that no matter what you do to it, it goes back to exactly what it wants to be shaped like, which is a huge coil, and that's not what we needed. But it's really inexpensive. It's very robust. Thermally, it's... But did I say it's inexpensive? So, yeah, I think I would stick with it.
Right. Yeah, the one difficult thing, though, I remember while I was filming, though, is how you had to stretch it out and get rid of, like, the knots and everything. That you were probably, like, 100 feet apart or something like that? So you definitely need more than one person.
You need
can't do it
two.
yourself.
And you'll see the two of us doing it. It's not that difficult for two, but I think it'd be close to impossible to do it yourself. Even a 10-year-old could help you, but it's just you have to do something to organize the loose ends, because otherwise they're whipping all over the place, and you know, you put everything in and then boing, it's out again. So no, I think definitely two people, and I think I would stick with the PEX.
Yeah. So since we just started, I can see people still like trickling in and everything. So if you guys have any questions either about that video or any other like previous videos, we would love to talk about that. So if you want to do like a super chat or just a regular comment, whatever you want to do,
Sure.
that's fine. Anything else about that video that you thought was interesting, or?
Well, there's a lot, but
Well,
the thing is,
you can't do the whole
I don't want to
video
do the whole video here. I'm just sort of giving an update because that was on my mind. I was working on this earlier today, so it's kind of like, you know, that's right in my head. There's a couple other things we can cover in terms of some of the other videos that we're working on. But for now, I think that's probably as far as I want to go into terms of details, unless somebody's got a question about what I've been bringing up so far. Then I can dive as deep as you want.
Yeah, and there's a couple of videos that we've been working on, like that one back there. You guys can't see it in the camera view.
The centrifuge?
Yeah. But there's a couple of those, but those have been sort of put on the back burner just because the AC, with it being so hot outside and everything, we want to get that done, you know, before it starts to snow and make it kind of pointless. So.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to watch a video about how to make things work better when you know you're not going to be able to apply it for like 7 or 8 months. And if you're living down in, you know, Texas or Arizona, yeah, you've got the burden of needing air conditioning all the time. But up here, we've got about a month and a half, and then you're pretty much going to turn them off. So,
right. Yeah, well, here's just an interesting question that's
Okay.
related. So are you not doing anything more with the desiccant cooling?
No. Part of the reason is, as you'll see with the video that we're doing, it is so effective that I think the advantage of having the non-desiccant cooling because of the dehumidification function. I don't know if you remember the video very clearly, but one of the things that the desiccant does is it cools, but it does not dehumidify the internal air inside of the room. And that lack of dehumidification leaves the room feeling clammy. So it's very cost effective, but it is not what I would do if I wanted to have a really comfortable environment. Similarly, with the kind of system we're building now, you can actually use the technology that we're going to be showing you without an air conditioner. You can actually cool using just the system that we're using to make this system more efficient. You could use this without even an air conditioner. But then again, you don't get the dehumidification function, which I think is probably 50% of what the value of an air conditioner is to dry out the air as opposed to just cooling. Again, if you're down in Arizona or you're down in New Mexico and you've got extremely dry air, or some other part of the world where you've got extremely dry air, then yeah, you could use this kind of a system and use almost no power whatsoever, but you won't dehumidify.
Yeah, so Danny, thanks for the super. He said, we just want you to collab with Nighthawk and Light. I knew something like that would come up. We always get like the collaboration requests,
Yeah.
which we definitely want to do. It's just hard to, meet up in person. So it's possible maybe for our first, engagement with him, he might either join over like a Zoom call or something like that, like on here, or maybe visit in person and go over some like project ideas and join us like on the live stream here.
Right.
But then definitely in the future, I think it would be a very cool idea to actually meet up in person and actually do a project together, not just talk about one.
Yeah. And yesterday we were having dinner, and I was speaking to my other son, and Paul and Alex and I were sort of brainstorming, and we may have him on. He has a lot of technological skills, especially around electromagnetic science, radio, that sort of thing. And he's an interesting guy, and that might be an interesting interview to put between the other content creator videos or interviews that we do. So yeah, we're looking forward to all of those people, and we are going to reach out to them. I think part of it too is once we've done a couple of these live streams and the people that we invite on have seen them, they'll have a better idea of like, what am I getting into? And so that may be also a comfort factor, especially if you're getting to people that maybe are unfamiliar with our channel. I know he is, but there are other people that may have only seen us, 3 years ago and, oh, are they still around? That sort of thing. You might want to have some comfort level that you're going to get into an environment that you respect. We're good communicators. They're good communicators. We've got a good studio. We've got a good way of doing it.
And it would be cool. I'm not sure if you'd be willing, but if you could do something simple, but if you wanted to bring like one of his experiments or projects that he's been working on and sort of demonstrate it in front of everybody live so people can like ask questions at the same time and they don't have to, comment on a video
Sort of show
in the
and
future.
tell.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And so you guys know, we're not going to do it right away because we want to make sure that everybody is here and, they didn't miss out. But we have a couple things to show you guys that are behind us if you look in the background. But we'll bring that up a little bit later. But there'll be some interesting things for you guys to think about of maybe some potential video ideas or stuff that we can use this equipment for. So I think you guys will get a kick out of that.
Yeah, and a lot of the ideas we come up with actually come from other YouTube channels. Somebody's doing something. Like, for example, when we did the supercooling paint. This was at a time when Nighthawk and Light was doing all of his cooling fabric videos, where he was trying to coat them in order to make them more infrared reflective and therefore, heat dissipating. We were sort of doing the same sorts of investigations, and when I saw those, that's what kind of set us off or down that path. So if you have videos or technological subjects or channels that you follow and you think, they've got a great idea, but they didn't do it the way you'd like to see, it might be that we agree and we could visit those same subjects without stealing the ideas, just using the concepts and taking them in a different direction or maybe a little bit further or reviewing them. Be happy to do that, and I'd definitely listen to the recommendations. We got a lot of ideas, but not all of them are going to end up as videos.
So just because everything's still sort of starting up, what do you think after the air conditioning video, what do you think would be the next one that you would focus on? Would it be the centrifuge or?
Well, well, here's the thing. I don't know if you should bring it out now, but it's the weather conditions of like the summer here in New England that if we're going to go out on the boat, we probably need to do it within the next, 4, 5, 6 weeks. And that might end up being the most appropriate one. So maybe you want to bring that thing forward yet?
Yeah, if you want to, well, I can get this pulled.
Or I can get it for you,
Yeah,
actually, while you're handling this. Excuse me a sec.
Yeah, so an interesting thing that I got probably about a week ago, and we've been sort of discussing how we can use it and where we could use it and maybe some experiments that we could use it with. That might be an interesting thing for you guys to comment on if you have any ideas. We're probably, this doesn't give away our location, but we probably, since we're here in New Hampshire, I was thinking the best place just because it's the biggest, most famous, and there are a couple like interesting things underwater to look at. But probably Lake Winnipesaukee is what I was thinking would be the best option.
Yeah.
And then if the friend that you have that has the boat, if he's willing to, trailer it down there, and we can take it out there. So
Now, can you guess what this is?
Yeah, I think I mentioned the water, and if you see that, I think
got
it's
hints.
obvious. Yeah, and just careful with that connection on the back.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, so this thing, I picked it up a couple weeks ago, and I thought it'd be super useful to do some underwater experiments, either with compression or I wouldn't use that to. Okay.
Just like that.
Yeah, this not iffy. So
Now
anyways,
you know my laboratory skills are somewhat limited.
it requires a Mountain Dew can.
Yeah, right.
So anyways, this thing, I can even pull it up here if you guys are interested. Now, I know it's sort of a cheaper model because it's, like a Chinese thing and everything, and it doesn't have a lot of support. And this is not a sponsor, by the way. I was just looking at ROVs, and I thought this would be the most useful one. Because the depth is still really good, 100 meters. There's, I don't think there's any place in Lake Winnipesaukee that reaches that depth.
No, I think they go down to about like
174 feet.
Yeah,
something
right.
like
So
that.
say 55, 60 meters, something
Sure.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys have any ideas of what we could use this for, like testing compression or testing, I don't know, water qualities to see how much like mercury is in the water or something like that. I don't know what.
Well,
if
one
you had
idea
any
I
ideas.
had was to actually take a recording module, something that you can put a battery into and uses very, very little power, and measures either pressure waves or temperature fluctuations, so that when, say, weather occurs and you get waves or you get boats passing over, 60 meters above you, can you actually detect their presence or their passage just due to pressure variations? I think it'd be very easy to build a structure like that, and even multiple structures. You could build a grid of 9 of them or something like that, and actually be able to visualize the passage of something due to the passage of pressure waves. Odds are they're going to transmit down below, and if you've got a sensitive and fast enough detector, you would be able to do that, to acoustically image the surface of the water from the ground, from the bottom. I have very little doubt that the Navy is doing something like this. So
I think they're doing a lot more than that.
I think they're doing a
probably.
lot more than that, and they're probably a little deeper.
And they have, what is it? Oh, yeah, infinite money.
Oh, yeah, and the budget. Yeah, the
Yeah.
budget. Thanks for the
That might
super
be-
chats anyway.
Yeah, right.
So your super chats bought this, and that's how we're applying the money that you send us. So we really do appreciate it.
Yeah. And it keeps the conversation going and everything, so we don't talk about the same thing. Like, your feedback is super important because you'll think of things that we haven't, and then we can spend 20 minutes talking about it when it's interesting enough.
Well, another interesting thing to do would be to bring a balloon down filled with helium. And when you bring it all the way down, it'll just collapse. It'll get small like anything would under pressure. But when you let go of it with the arms and it goes up to the top,
Oh, I see.
when it gets to the top, it keeps going. So it's like all of a sudden,
be
out of
weird,
the
yeah,
middle of
okay,
a lake, you see this balloon launch into the air from nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
So
yeah.
I think that'd be kind of cool. It will scare the kids, but the point but the point is, I think that would be kind of a fun little demonstration. Although it's probably mostly fun for us on the boat as we're looking at
Yeah,
you
right.
controlling this thing.
And that'll be an interesting thing to film. At least that has like a camera built into it, so we'll get the footage from there.
What is
But
that?
then
Like, is it a 2K or is it like a real
it's
limited?
4K, but
Oh, okay.
a lot of cameras can be 4K, but I don't know what the megapixels are. It probably says it somewhere up there. Yeah, no, it just says 4K.
Does it have any other
60p, but-
data recording, like a temperature?
It does temperature, it does depth, directions, but that's pretty much it. They have a more expensive model that you can get with different adapters. So instead of just a claw,
you
grabber,
plug on
you,
the
you,
extra.
you swap out how the claw mounts, and
Okay.
that same connector plugs into the bottom of it, and you can get things like salinity testing, water quality, water sampling.
Directly, not just pulling a bottle and locking it up and bringing it up.
It does that, but I think it also does the testing process of it as
Okay.
well. It's not just a capsule
Right,
that you
right.
then have to test
Fill in,
manually.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, but that one was like 4 times the price, and
Yeah.
those were the only benefits. And I'm thinking, with us and everything, if we want to test something like water quality, we can build something and mount it on there. It's
Yeah.
like we don't need this to.
You
do
don't
it
need
for
to
us.
modify this in order to get a sample of water.
Yeah. Soil samples. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that would be interesting. I just, and like heavy metals and lake sediments and stuff.
I bet you in that kind of a lake, because I don't know what its flow through is.
Yeah.
But it's a popular lake with homes all the way around it
Yeah.
and boats. I can imagine that at the bottom of that lake, there's also probably old boilers, and back from the, 1800s, they were probably dumping steam engines in there and everything. So
Right.
there could be all kinds of nasties at the bottom of that lake, buried half in
Yeah.
the mud. And it might be interesting if you found one, but I'm sure it also is spilling some stuff.
Yeah, but I'm thinking for the first video when we go out on the boat with it, is mainly going to be just sort of testing it, seeing like what its capabilities are, getting used to it, and then follow-up videos would be things like soil testing or mercury or something like
Right.
that. Yeah.
Right. So I thought that'd be kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, it is.
Take it off the table so it's not my way.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good investment. It'll give us, some branching off opportunities for different types of videos. So yeah, if you guys have any recommendations, other ones, I don't think we're going to find bodies, but
What would
But we might-
do if we did?
I would like to hope that we would report it.
No. No, I mean, would you have to change your pants, is what I mean.
You have to change your. Well, yeah, I wouldn't be touching them either if we did find it.
No, I mean, I would, yeah, that would be spooky. Yeah, that would not be pleasant. But you may find some kind of sketchy stuff down there, so.
Yeah, that's possible.
Maybe money.
No, yeah, gold coin.
Yeah, right. So,
So
Any
we
questions?
got another super from Spacious TMX, or I don't want to mispronounce it. Speaking of waves, do some scalar wave comms project.
scalar wave?
Scalar waves? Yeah, I'm not that aware of it.
Yeah, could you comment back and be a little bit more specific, because it's so general? No, I haven't, I'm not in the middle of a project with that, but just basically like specifically, how would you apply it, or what do you mean? And you don't have to super chat it to send it back. I mean, just send it as a message.
Yeah, I'll look for that.
All right.
And Savage, I haven't looked at our email, so if you sent it, I probably should still have it. But the Tesla turbine pump files, the 3D printable Tesla turbine pump files that he sent over. So I'll just check the email, and if you sent it, then I should definitely have it somewhere.
Okay. Look for that.
Okay. Is it capable of going in rivers or just lakes?
Yeah, what is its maximum speed?
Well, not speed. It has a resistance. Actually, it shows it up there. I should have kept that up there. Display capture. So it says that it has a 2-knot flow resistance. So
Okay.
it would have to be a kind of calm river.
Yeah.
It can't be like any of the main ones that were around.
Yeah, and maybe if you actively moved it, because 2 knots is pretty slow for
Yeah.
the vehicle itself. So maybe it'll just maintain its own stability against 2 knots. But if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
knew that it was coming down at 4 knots, you may be able to drive into the
Sure,
current
sure.
at a higher speed than 2 knots. But
Sure.
then it might get a little sketchy in terms of trying to do stuff.
Yeah, because it would all be manual. It wouldn't be
Yeah.
doing its own thing. And I don't know how to use it very well, so.
Yeah, we're not going to do it from the drainage from a dam.
Plus, I think you'll find more interesting things in like a lake like Lake Winnipesaukee because there's so many people there and boats and everything. And it's deeper and all that sort of stuff. I think with the river, you're just going to find rocks and fish. So.
Yeah, and also we have some relatives that live in Portland, and so we could use this in the ocean. This could be cool because obviously you can see in the background behind us the rib that we have back there, and that's perfectly capable. Part of the reason we wanted our buddy to help us with this is simply because as he's trying to figure out what the heck he's doing, it'd be pretty hard for me then to be managing navigation and the boat and everything else. But once we get kind of comfortable with it, then we could probably just go out with other people just to give us a hand. But we don't need somebody who's a really good boater who knows, how to handle the boat in all kinds of conditions and everything.
Yeah, and I saw your comment, SB. If the resolution of the built-in camera is too poor, simply attach an action cam to it.
Yeah,
I
that's
did
true.
look into that, and we have those GoPros, and obviously you can get the cases where they can go at deeper depths.
They won't
but
overheat.
Well, because of the water, yeah.
Yeah.
I bet they still would.
Yeah, right.
It could be in
They heat the
Antarctica
lake.
and it'll still
Yeah, right.
overheat.
Those things are awful in terms of overheating.
Yeah, you can only use it like in regular temperatures, like 70 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
Like you can use it for 30 minutes, 45 minutes before beep, 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 and it shuts down.
Right.
Yeah. But the action cam thing is a good idea for any like shallow depths, but even with those cases I've looked into it, I think it was like a maximum depth of like 75 or 100 feet, not 100 meters. So I don't want to be like trying to, I might forget, or I'm trying to, look at the depth and it's like, oh yeah, the camera on top can only go to this depth. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, then you lose a, $400 camera for no
Yeah.
reason. Pressure resistant polymers, science based and not going down to the Titanic. Yeah, that could be like, testing like if we made some like capsules or like enclosures and see
Yeah.
what materials, like especially if you did
I
some,
like this.
yeah, if you did some like carbon fiber wrapped something.
Yeah, because you remember the SpaceX disaster with the Starship test, and they pretty much nailed it as one of the composite overwrapped pressure vessels that they used to deliver the driving pressure in nitrogen to pressurized fuel tanks, that sort of thing. Well, one of them failed. And they're supposedly rated up to like 10,000 psi, in other words, internal pressure. But nevertheless, the same concept probably is still pretty good for external pressure because if you have a very symmetrical shape, their compressive strength is still quite good. And it might be kind of fun to make some molds using the 3D printer.
Right.
And then overwrapping them with some of the pretty good, we've actually got that graphene cloth. I've got some small rolls I was given as a gift. But it is graphene, not graphite, graphene. And it's remarkable stuff because it looks sort of like eyeglass tissue. You wouldn't think there's much to it. You can kind of see light through it. It's very diffuse. But it is graphene. And it might be fun to wrap one of those models because, say they're the size of this can, but rounded, again, to take the pressures. And to do a minimalist job, 1 or 2 layers, just minimalist, and see if it still survives. Because if it does, then you can sort of begin to get an idea of, okay, we need 15 layers if we're going to go down 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet.
Right.
And then what you could do is, in order to get it to lift up, you'd need to then disconnect a weight. So you send it down with a weight, then have a timer or something like that. You don't even have to communicate with it. It disconnects, releases it, it floats to the top, and then you locate it, and obviously whatever it sampled or whatever data it's accumulated, you bring it back to the boat, and you could use it and then send it out again. So I like that idea, and I think you may have come up with an idea for another video. I like that idea. I'm going to get into that. That's kind of cool.
Especially how it relates to the Titanic thing and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Al, thanks for the 2. Sea Drone is a good project. I thought it'd be a fun project. And I'm not sure if you mean sort of like building one. I think that would be down the road. But doing those like testings with the housings and everything, then theoretically you could move into, okay, now you will actually want to build your own
Right.
underwater ROV instead of buying one. And maybe it can go a lot deeper because instead of using plastic, you're using, some
Carbon fiber reinforced,
composite thing. Yeah.
composite thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, it would be interesting to know, like, if we had all the money in the world, just to send these things down as far as they go. When do they fail? Like, when do they
Right.
actually fail, and what fails? Because it may be that the motors and the rotors and the propellers, they may be good to 5,000 feet or 2,000 meters or something like that, but it's the camera or it's the battery pack or something like that.
Right.
And if you can identify the weaknesses, then those are the things that you have to reinforce, and you can just use commercial motors and commercial stuff for the rest of it. That makes the project much more approachable when you can start to divvy out what you don't have to do, not what you have to do.
But TMX responded about the scalar radio waves.
Oh, okay, good.
They use Earth. They used the Earth ground plus scalar radio waves to somehow leverage Earth instead of just through the air.
Oh,
Okay.
that's for Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. That would be something.
Yeah,
he'd be
because
interested in.
I could make up something, but it's like I'm probably going to make you more confused with my errors, so I'm going to stay aside from that. But I'll bring it up with Paul tonight when we see him. But if he comes on, I'll definitely remember to ask him that question because he may have already been working on those ideas.
And there's a good chance he's actually probably watching this right
Yeah.
now. So hi, Paul.
Put it down on a piece of paper.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Getting tangled on lines and wireless challenges underwater. Well, I assume that but the tether that you see that you saw when
That coil I
yeah.
had up here, yeah.
that's necessary because you can't communicate underwater wirelessly. That would be also another good test, and that might be something Paul would be interested in. If maybe like using like sonar communication or like sound waves or something underwater to be able to wirelessly communicate with it instead of having to have a tether. The tether is nice though because if something dies, you can still retrieve it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can pull it up.
But that would be a good
But
test.
it'd be an interesting experiment because the thing is, that's how dolphins communicate. You could
right.
use high-frequency pings. It would be a very, very low data rate. But if all you're doing is telling a relatively smart object, left, right, up, down, return to home, those kinds of signals, then maybe you can make it semi-autonomous and the control signals only have to be limited to those kinds of simple communications. And that would be relatively easy to do because you even have, don't you have like boat mountable radars that you can put like, no, it's not radars, it's a depth finder. You glue it on the outside of your hull and it pings the ground, the bottom of the lake or the river or the ocean and times it, and then it tells you if you've got enough clearance for your hull, that sort of thing. You can get those things commercially from a boat supplier or a marine supplier. So you can do that, and I would think it wouldn't be that difficult to modify something like that to modulate its signal, either in frequency or just, probably not amplitude because of depth, but probably frequency modulation or just individual pings, maybe 3 different frequencies or something like that. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, there's a
Get to
lot
work,
of
Paul.
ideas. Yeah, just put it all on Paul. That's fine.
That's Paul's job. What's our?
You know what? Actually, here's a free gift. Now make it work.
Yeah, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
You like radios, right? Yeah, here.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, Brian, I get it. Controlling without view kind of doesn't work because with the low bandwidth, you wouldn't be able to see anything. But that might be something like if you can have it track its own position so you can roughly know where it is, and it's just recording the entire time. So then when you retrieve it, you can see what it got. But it's not a great idea.
That
Just
also
loading
isn't
this.
fiber, is it? I mean, it's electrical connection,
Yeah,
right? It's not a fiber.
No,
Yeah.
no. And I don't know what the bandwidth of it is.
It's got to be enough for the camera,
Yeah,
and if it can handle the camera, it can handle any data. That,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. Well, actually, since this is just a little bit slow, that other project that you brought by, or that interesting engineering box that you have.
Oh, that thing?
Yeah, if you
Yeah, actually,
if you're interested.
yeah, that's another update I can give you. Remember when I had asked for help and I wanted those samples of materials, or I wanted suggestions on the materials that I should test to see how we can block the laser? I noticed we got a whole heck of a lot of comments, thousands of them. And some of them were repetitive. It was sort of the same idea. But there was probably a good 30% of the people didn't understand what I was looking to achieve. And it's probably because of the way I presented it. But what we needed to do was protect an entire surface of a wall, a whole inside wall of a building, from random laser strikes. And many of the suggestions were, put a brick in front of it, or, put a heavy piece of lead in front of it, or something that would block the beam, or lenses that could spread out the beam and then absorb it, over a large area. As if what you're trying to do is create a beam dump. And let me show you an example of a beam dump that I made a couple of years ago.
Yeah, so while he gets it, if you guys have any other questions related, and TMX, thanks for all the messages and everything, but we're just not too knowledgeable on that. So maybe when we have Paul on next time, and if he's had time to look up some of that stuff.
And if he comes on next time, no guarantees. He may be busy that night.
Yeah. When I say next time, whenever he comes on.
Yeah.
But he might be a better person to, ask all those questions to. And when I send out the notification next time, if he's going to be on, I'll put that in there so you know that it's like, ooh, this is my opportunity to be able to ask him questions about that.
This is what's called a beam dump. And basically, if you look in the front end of this, I don't know if it's not zoomed in enough.
Yeah,
but
use that camera.
You see this little hole right here in the middle. That is where a very high-powered laser beam can enter into a box that can then handle and absorb the kilowatts of power that are coming from the beam. And the way it works internally is that there is a cone, a precision cone that took a long time to machine. And then I had it sent out and silvered so that it has a reflectivity in the 1 micron range of almost 99%. And the way, or the concept behind it, I'm sure some of you are already aware of it, but for those of you that aren't, is that when the beam comes in through the front hole like this, it enters and hits this needle-sharp point. And because of the angle, instead of the discs, let's say a 1 centimeter circle that would normally be able to cut through the metal, that 1 centimeter circle will then end up getting about this far down the cone and cover a much larger area, distributing the heat. And then it's reflected to the inside of the box, which is anodized aluminum, and it's been overcoated, powder coated with an inorganic. So this thing could get almost red hot, but this won't melt under the fluence of the laser beam. And this is not like my invention. I just constructed this particular one because these beam dumps in this design have been around for decades. But this is how we dump the beam when we're trying to work with the beam, and at the other end we don't want smoke and heat and fire and all that sort of thing. So you just mount this on a support right in front of the beam, send the beam in there, and a beam dump is a very safe, helpful way of doing this. It is a machining challenge to get this very, very smooth and very, very polished, because if it absorbs the light, it's just going to melt too. So this is sort of probably the best solution if we're not moving the beam around. But when you're moving the beam around, I want to be careful with this. When you're moving the beam around, however, the surface that we need has to be able to absorb it over a very large area. And what I came up with, and we're going to demonstrate that, I think we might even do that. Maybe we could even do that next Saturday, or we can do it as a short. But we came up with 4 really good options. And one of them is rock wool. I have some sample down there, but well, let me just bring it up here.
Where is it?
It's right here.
Oh, okay. Right.
You can see this. Yeah. Okay, we've got a lot of this around from other projects that we were building and doing a lot of our rocket work, and we needed something that would protect tables and plywood from the flame. This stuff actually holds up pretty well. Unmodified, just as it is, this will last about 4 seconds under the influence of the beam, even at its tightest focus. And I think 4 seconds is more than the amount of time that we're going to need. The one thing about this is it does have a lot of fragments and particles, so as we're moving it around the room, we may get a little bit of dust from this, but I'm not too concerned about that. One of the remarkable alternatives is soaked MDF, medium density fiberboard. You've probably seen it. Probably some of the counters in your home are actually built out of it. It's a very homogeneous material made from wood chips and sawdust that are put in a resin binder. It looks like plywood. It's cheaper than plywood, and it actually holds up very poorly when it's dry. But because of all the wood, if you soak it for a couple of days in water, it becomes punky and mushy, and you wouldn't use it for anything other than what we're using it for. And when you put it under the beam, it lasts a long time, like 10 or 12 seconds. And it's inexpensive. It weighs a ton when you soak it. So it may be a little bit hard to move around, and we may actually put a plywood backing or something on it to make it a little bit more resistant. But it's going to be probably one of those two materials. I soaked some plywood. That extended its length a little bit, but it doesn't soak in very well because of all the glue layers. You just get the water on the surface. And so it's not as good as the MDF where the water can get all the way to the inside of the material. And this particular material, again, is light, easy to move around, cheap. And I like the light because when you're moving these heavy things back and forth multiple times to do a lot of testing, it's nice to have something that you can manipulate and then stack against a wall for a future experiment. In addition to those, though, we're going to show you a couple of other interesting things you can do with a very, very powerful beam as long as they're set up for that. And I think you'll find those fun, and those I'm going to retain as a bit of a secret. So when we do that, we'll try to do that as soon as we can because we'll get that out of the way.
Just a simple question. I almost lost it. From Clawtooth. What is the advantage? Yeah. What is the advantage to that as a beam dump rather than defocusing the beam through a lens? I have no experience with it. Just curious.
Well, one of the problems with a lens is even the very, very best lenses have tolerances in terms of fluence. You can crack even high-quality laser lenses if you have enough fluence. The situation here, though, is that even if you started to damage the cone, melt it, it's still going to be distributing its heat throughout the box. It's not going to be this catastrophic explosion of a lens where all the fragments then send beam paths back at you. In addition, you'd have to spread out the beam with different lenses for different wavelengths. We have a blue laser here. We also have the infrared laser. We have a dye laser, a pulse dye laser that I've used this thing for that operates around 550 nanometers. This will work pretty much all the way through from UV out to mid-IR range. You don't have to think about it. And if a lens gets dirty, you're probably going to destroy it. This, because of the nature of everything being inside the box, stays pretty clean, and you don't have to be concerned that you're going to get dirt accumulating on the outside. It's the same principle, but this is probably just a more robust way of doing it. That would be its strongest argument.
Yeah, and another one from Jezzy. You could try spraying wet wood pulp just before use. Have you tried anything like that?
No, I haven't. One thought I had about like anything where I dampen it prior to the procedure is that as it dries out, stuff may fall off. And again, remember, we need panels because we have to cover about 20 square meters of wall, maybe about 3 meters high by maybe 6 meters wide. And so we can't do something where you just have to work right in front of you. You need big panels that you can put up and pretty much forget about. The soaked MDF has the advantage of it stays pretty wet for days. And yeah, you could spray it down to kind of refresh the water level, or if you had a burn hole, you could cover it with another piece. So the pulp would be what I would do if I was trying to make those panels because I'd want the final product in the form of a panel.
Just another simple one. If the laser is too strong for a lens to defocus it, how is the laser focused in the first place?
Well, one of the things about the fiber lasers is that the light inside of the fiber, the fiber is 50 microns in diameter, so it's incredible energy densities. But it's an absolutely pristine environment. The glass has been made for that wavelength and then is sealed. So you don't even get one tiny micron-sized particle of dust on it. But in addition to that, the way that the fiber laser operates is that it has sort of a reflector at the other end that keeps the fiber itself clean and doesn't work at the same fluence levels as the internal components of the fiber. But the primary reason why the lens, I think, is an issue is because of the dirt. If you've worked in an optical location, especially if you've got something in a shop or a warehouse like this, dust is everywhere. You clean off this table, and an hour later, if you take a clean cloth and wipe it across, you'll find a few particles of dust. Lenses get dirty, and they're really, really hard to keep clean. That's probably the primary reason why the lenses would be vulnerable, in addition to the fact that they're single wavelength optimized.
And thanks, Al, for the 2 again. I assume what you're asking is if he's an electrical engineer. If you look back at the previous live stream, he went into great depth about his history and.
Are you
work
talking
and
about
everything.
me or Paul? I'm assuming.
I'm assuming you, because
But
you're
me.
talking about this right now.
No, you can go back to the last live stream because I gave my sort of biography and how I got here. Physical chemistry was my original training.
Okay. Do you want to keep focusing on this, or you want to move on to something else? Because I remember there was a previous interesting comment.
What was? See if you can find it.
It was about, and you might be able to catch them up on it. But it was someone saying that. Here. Random one. What did you guys do with those awesome instrument speakers you made?
Oh,
You
they're
were the one-
sitting.
yeah.
They're sitting in the shop.
Yeah. Do you think you would ever do anything else with them?
I don't know. We did the public demonstration. I mean, we saw them. We, kind of gave an argument for how they work. I think the only thing that might be worth doing, and maybe this would be a fun one as a collaboration with, say, musicians, where you could involve somebody who's a decent, say, piano player or musician, and try modifying their instrument or their type of instrument. So you get a cello and a cellist or something like that. Might be an interesting comparison to hear how the live cellist sounds and then hear how the same song sounds on our instrument and see if you can even tell the difference. I bet you can, because they are designed to be stimulated from the bridge. But nevertheless, that might be an interesting comparison to see how close you can get.
Yeah, and just another separate thing. You should make more videos, not fussing too much about the format or what day you release a new video. You guys need to get back to basics. Well, this, by the way, is not taking away from the regular videos. We're focusing on those just as much. The great thing about these live streams is we're doing it on a Saturday, so there's not a bunch of background noise. We don't have to edit or produce the video once the live stream is done. We get to answer your questions in real time, so that's a benefit. And so we're losing, 2 hours or an hour and a half of, working time that we would otherwise be eating a pizza or something like that.
And this is fun. See,
yeah.
part of this is when we do videos, it's a one-directional communication. We're telling you everything, and then weeks later, I'll read a comment about something or comment on it. But this is live interaction. You can ask a question if you don't like my answer, or you disagree, or you want to get into it. We can do that right now. And I get to sort of not only get feedback from you with this live stream, but it's actually fun to communicate about these things. When you come up with an idea and we're like, oh yeah, should we make a pressure vessel for the ROV?
Right.
That sort of thing. This is actually recreational compared to the kind of stuff when we're digging holes in the ground. So...
And it's a little bit easier.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier. So this is, in addition, there's nothing changing about the original format or the plans or the rate of production of videos. This is a Saturday evening well spent.
Yeah, and the only reason it's been a little while since the last one is we have 3 videos that are in production. but there's no way to speed it up. Even if you spent all day, it wouldn't make it any faster because there's certain things you have to wait for to either get delivered or
Right.
dry or whatever.
Right.
So it's like those three will be pumped out like immediately once they're done, but they're all going to be pretty much done at the same time. So then we'll just have to wait to film the next one.
Well, I've got an interesting one for you. You don't know this one, and everybody else should hear this too.
Oh no.
Well, when I was working earlier today, I was setting up some of the thermal probes that we're going to be using in that video on the air conditioning. And one of them has to extend way far from the building so that we get outdoor air temperature unbiased by the structure of the building and everything else.
Okay.
So I was out there, and I'm adjusting the boards and get everything to work. And the UPS driver drove past.
Yeah. Okay.
And she stopped, and as you can imagine with this channel, we get a lot of UPS deliveries. So she's very familiar with what we're doing. She's a subscriber. And she said, hi, what are you up to? And I said, oh, we're doing a video on air conditioning and everything. And I'm just putting a temperature probe out here to measure the air temperature. And she just looked at it for a couple of seconds and then said, yeah, but won't that give you a false reading because it's in the sun?
Yeah, even the UPS driver, yeah.
This really had a profound impact on me because it was kind of like, sure, she's a follower of the channel, but she's a UPS driver, and she drives past and gives me a good piece of advice. It was an easy fix. I just, moved the probe out of the sun. But it was like, think about it. It's like you're in the store, you're walking in the store, you're walking down the street. How many people do you pass every day with all of this knowledge and experience in so many different areas, and you'd have no idea? Right. It's like there is just so much out there, this network society, this ability for people to communicate from all around the world about all kinds of subjects. And it just made me feel really good. It's like, I think humanity is going to make it.
Yeah. I don't, even if she didn't know that, I think we'd still make it. But no, but that is a cool thing where it's like, even the UPS driver, even if she wasn't a subscriber or a viewer, would probably have said the same thing. And the fact that she's like interested enough and is not, oh, here's your package, and then just moves
throwing
on.
it at
Yeah,
me.
right. No, that is cool.
Yeah, that was very encouraging.
A couple of just other random things. Back to the speakers. Dan said the speakers were awesome. Any interest in building a vacuum tube amp?
Paul.
Yeah, that would be another one for Paul. Actually, yeah, I think he definitely uses them.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, he probably would be interested in making one. Do you have any patents? No, I've never even thought of it before.
Actually, I think I do, but
you can't get into it because of the...
Yeah, because it's not only me.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So, it's kind of like, it's almost like the legal thing where it's like, we can't tell you any more at this time, that kind of thing. So,
okay, I'm just looking at these. I want to make sure I don't miss any very interesting ones.
But one thing I did say early on, and I've said this multiple times on our channel, anything that we do, if we come up with something that is like a really good idea, we'll never patent it on this channel. It's like everything that we do, we're going to expose it to the world, and because we've made it publicly available, if anybody wants to use it, make it, sell it, go ahead, but you can't patent it either because it is in the public space. So patents are good if you need to protect, your intellectual property. But I think in the whole concept of this idea of researching, learning, sharing, improving, reset, repeat, the value is what everybody does to sort of appreciate it. Like we get our feedback because everybody likes it.
Yeah.
And you get the benefit of maybe learning something that you can use in your daily life or in your business. And heck, if you can make $1 million doing it, just say thanks. That'll be enough for me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I think the patents should only be really used for, someone who spent, 5 years developing something and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then some other company just steals it. It's like,
right.
In that case, it makes sense. But if you're doing like at-home projects and showing other people how to use it, and then you patent it, it seems kind of gross.
It does, and that's kind of why it seemed like it was an easy decision to make. But, as we get bigger and the projects become a little more sophisticated, they may move into the realm of like commercial commercial viability. So, but that the philosophy still holds.
Yeah. Someone liked the live stream. I'm trying to find that, but thanks. Yeah, and we plan to keep doing these live streams sort of like
Yeah.
this, where it's relaxed, answer questions. We don't really plan too much. The reason we brought, like, I brought the ROV, and he, yeah. The reason we did that is just in case when there's like a slowdown or something like that, we have something to talk about. But then also it's like an opportunity to get ideas from people for videos where
Right.
we don't know what to use it for. What are
Well,
your
like
thoughts?
your pressure vessel idea. You
Yeah.
know, it's like if we hadn't brought it up, nobody would have commented.
Ooh, I like this one.
What?
Sam J, thanks for the 20. We really appreciate it. How about a video exploration? A video exploring on making penetration resistant materials or coatings. Really sort of.
I'm assuming you mean penetration resistant by electromagnetic radiation, like listening and sound and light, or do you mean like bulletproof vests and that sort of thing, like penetration by what?
My first thought was more like bullet resistant vests and stuff.
All right, let's stay with that.
Well,
for
you can
a
do
sec.
both. But
Yeah, but I think because the electromagnetic stuff is actually pretty straightforward. Just need a conductive layer. Piece of aluminum foil is an electromagnetic barrier, so we're done with that one. But in terms of the penetration, yeah, it is an interesting kind of phenomena because one of the problems, major problems with protecting yourself from high velocity rounds and projectiles, is the fact that you can make it very effective if you're willing to carry 100 kilograms all around you. It's making it light and at the same time making it resistant. And also the potential of something self-healing, like these mass gel types of protection systems that effectively, after it's captured the bullet or it's stopped the fragment that could otherwise hurt you, the gel, due to inertia, will stop it, but then it self-heals, so that if you're in an area where you're going to get multiple, you're not like all of a sudden vulnerable and now you have to run away or you're in trouble, or you didn't even know something hit you. That, I think, might be attractive, but at the same time, I don't think they're nearly as effective, and it may be that you need to combine the smart liquid crystal types of materials that, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there are some of these things, they're even made as toys, where it is a material that if you push slowly on it, it's jelly-like.
But if you hit it fast, it's like
it's
a rock.
hard.
Yeah. I have seen those, yeah.
You're right. And so I think modifying that kind of a structure to make it even better would be a way to improve those types of systems. And the point is, I know they make something kind of like that, or there's been research on that, so this isn't that alien. But to make it lighter, or make it something you could make yourself, or customize the dimensions to protect a certain thing or a certain part, that I think would be useful to know. And yeah, I'll do a little bit more research into that and see if it seems like something we could actually make that would be valuable.
Yeah, and we haven't really done, at least not recently, anything like that, like protective materials or hardened materials or anything like that.
Ballistic protection, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think part of it is obviously you got to get into the ballistics, and so you need to range, and we could do that.
Yeah.
But it is an environment where you'd have to like take over the range, because you can't be going down range to put up your samples.
Yeah, right.
And,
Right.
And we live in a dense enough area that it's not like you can just do it in your backyard. You shouldn't do it in your backyard, and you shouldn't
Just
film
don't
it.
aim it at the neighbors, So Alex, thanks very much. Not a question, just a comment, but thank you. I forgot to give your praises in my comment, but I'm glad you read it. I'm subscribed and a huge fan. I will watch anything you post.
Really?
I don't think we can try that out.
Yeah, we could test that.
Okay, and then Philip, thanks for the 5. Would you ever work on a multi-fuel Stirling engine system with solar thermal and biomass heat with a water heater tank as a reserve/interface?
Did Cody do that? I thought somebody like Cody. That's sort of Cody's kind of thing. I think he might have done something like that. You might look into it to see if he has. Maybe I'm wrong. But I think that's been done a couple of times with sort of disparate heat sources powering a Stirling engine.
Yeah, okay. Unbound, thanks for the 5. Really appreciate it. And feel free to ask questions or type. We don't. We're always interested to get feedback. Is that wax? Newtonian fluid.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Newtonian fluid. Thank you.
Ballistic sand. More rockets. I have seen a few comments here where everybody wants you to go back to producing some rocket engines.
After my fireworks injury,
Yeah.
I've had a little bit of a about the rockets, but they can be done safely. One of the things, though, that I don't think I will get into too much anymore is these sort of variations on solid fuel rockets. I think there was a comment earlier today on one of our earlier videos, and it was in the comments section, not part of this video, where they were wondering if I would get into the ammonium. I think it was the ammonium perchlorate, aluminum powder augmentation of the solid rocket engines. They give a better impulse. They've just got more energy per gram. But the thing is, it's sort of a, okay, you're going to gain 10% or 15%. Cool. But it's not intriguing enough to me to be sort of, it's like adjusting the flavor in your burger. It's like I'd rather make a steak or something different. And the most sort of unusual type of engine we got into was the hybrid engines, where you would take wax or some sort of combustible material and use liquid nitrous oxide as the oxidizer to create the flammable mixture. And the nice thing about it is that it does not require any kind of pumping system because the nitrous oxide is already under pressure. So you get rid of the turbo pumps and all of the other problems with liquid fuel. It has a higher performance, at least fuel-wise, it has a higher performance than the solid rocket engines. And because of the fact that you're only burning the fuel in the combustion chamber and the nozzle has to survive the heat, you don't have to build the entire rocket motor able to stand the pressures of the combustion chamber. That's one of the major problems with these solid rocket motors is that because you have to contain the maximum pressure they can reach all the way up to the point that the fuel and the propellant is gone. Means you have a very heavy, inert, otherwise dead weight mass that you're lifting up into the air. And I think, if I'm correct, that the recent failed launch by the Australians, they just put up a rocket a few days ago, and it was not good. It just took off, kind of hovered a little bit, moved to the side, and it was clearly failing, and then it crashed. And hey, guys, I really hope, it goes better. I know you're building, another model, and you're going to get the testing going, so good luck. But I think they were using hybrid engines in that engine. I heard that in the description in the news article, that it was a hybrid-based rocket. So at least one major firm is employing this kind of a design for rocket engines. Where I was going originally, though, is I would like to look at unique ways or sort of ways that you can leverage different types of materials like that. Like maybe you could build a rocket engine similar to that, but rather than using the wax that we used, maybe the combustion chamber itself could burn. Maybe the internals, you just build it out of aluminum and you burn the aluminum with the nitrous oxide so that you don't have any other disparate materials. That might be kind of interesting. And aluminum is just, off the top of my head kind of example, but you could make it out of composite materials or something else where you actually burn the structure. That might be a way to save weight. And obviously, you'd have to balance that against the fact that you're burning your rocket up as you're doing it. Another one that's kind of interesting to me, probably not very safe, but if you're familiar with the old project back from I think it was the 70s or something, Project Orion, where they were going to build nuclear-powered spacecraft. And we still don't have, even though I predicted we would, nuclear fusion in 5 years. 6 years ago I said that. But the point is, we don't really have a way to maintain continuous nuclear-powered anything on a rocket, but you can build a bomb. And the project's concept was that you would build small nuclear charges that would be launched behind the rocket and a large pusher plate, and you would blow them up. And you would actually pulse the rocket forward using these explosive charges. And even though it seems like it would be inefficient because a lot of your force is going out laterally and it's never going to interact with the rocket, the incredible power levels available in a nuclear explosion meant that you could use these things to get to Mars in a couple of months. You could send these ships interstellar. And once you're way up into space, the fact that there's nuclear radiation or gamma rays and X-rays and neutrons and everything being given off isn't going to hurt anybody because you can protect the crew and the package behind your pusher plate. And the Earth is, 100 million miles in the rear view mirror. It might be kind of interesting to try something like controlled explosions or controlled detonations of a mixture of, say, hydrogen and oxygen or something, puffs that could be blown up behind a pusher plate, and see if you can actually produce a continuous or at least a periodic thrust profile. I think that could be kind of an interesting type of rocket, sort of a buzz bomb type of rocket. Can I use that word?
Well, you did.
Buzz device. Sorry, mistake. Buzz device in order to test a different type of engine. That gets me kind of excited.
Yeah, and just to jump on a different topic,
Okay.
I think it's always good. Like, I kind of like the flow of how these go. I saw a couple comments about it, people asking different variations of the same, but
Sure.
What happened to the Tesla catamaran or the hydrofoil catamaran?
The hydrofoil did not work as well as I thought it would. So I think that one never is going to go anywhere. The boat is actually at our shop. We haven't used it for a few years. And I checked out the battery. Those batteries are remarkable. They've maintained their charge untouched at about 60% for the last 3 years. But the reason for the hydrofoil not working was the fact that the concept behind it was that if you have a hydrofoil that is way deep, way below the water level, if you adjust its angle of attack, you can produce some lift the front end of the boat up, and because it's hydrodynamically so efficient compared to a boat on the surface, you would reduce the drag and you could move more quickly. The downside of that is a boat is inherently stable. Even though they seem to rock, they always sort of stop rocking upright. The hydrofoil is inherently unstable because what happens is as you begin to lift the front end of the boat, that's where this hydrofoil was designed to be, as you begin to lift the front of the boat, the hydrofoil angle continues to increase, increasing the lift. So it lifts you even higher, which increases the lift. And so you'd end up getting this sort of popping action where it breaks the waves and then it comes back down and it breaks the waves. You'd need active control of the hydrofoil angle of attack as you're moving along because it's an inherently unstable system. And placing it in the back of the boat would actually potentially be more stable, but then what ends up happening is you're driving the front of the boat into the water. So I didn't really have the sort of energy or skill set to be able to introduce the active control system like Chris could have done for us with the robotics,
Right.
to have an angle meter or an angle detector that could feed into a loop to some actuators or small motors that could move the hydrofoil. But that's, I think, what you really need to do is so you can say, all right, I want 2% angle of attack, or I want a certain amount of force applied by this, and then you could fly it. And I think it would work very well. But again, we need a robotics guy for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I know in that case you would need a robotics guy, but do you think that might be an idea, and I don't want to give too much away because I think it's supposed to be a surprise, but do you think something like that would be something that Lars might be interested in?
Yeah, Lars would be interested. Well, actually,
that would be his focus.
The fact that you bring it up, because he's got a lot. I mean, he helped me with the telescope.
Sure.
And so he's got a lot. He's got more electronics background than I do.
Right.
Robotics, I think he was doing something with his son with like a robotics sort of thing. I don't know if it was like a school project.
All I know is he's very technical.
He's very technically inclined.
Yeah.
It's a family of technical people. But the point is, and his little boat idea, that is something we should
Yeah.
bring up. Yeah, again, thank you for the idea. I think I will
Oh, that
bring...
was actually mine, though.
Oh, that was yours?
Yeah, I was
Well,
just
thanks for the
thinking about
idea.
it. You're welcome.
We'll bring that up with Lars because he might be willing to. We've got the structure, we've even got the hydrofoil, and we've got the arms. We just need, that skill set. Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think it obviously would relate very well to his channel, and it
Yeah,
might
right.
be like a good starting off or like a good collaboration idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Stephen, thank you very much for the Canadian 28.
Good luck, Canada.
Tornado elimination via laser. Watching your massive tornado chamber. Add in to eliminate moisture per cordis in Europe, and new laser techniques or technique raises prospects of rain on demand.
Sort of harpy.
Okay. Yeah.
Harp,
okay.
if you know what that is. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what that.
Probably not, because it's one of those sort of like unforeseen consequences. Lasers are getting very, very powerful, but the energy levels that you'd need to affect sort of a weather pattern when you distribute what you'd have to do over potentially square kilometers, at least square hundreds of meters, in order to affect the humidity levels in the flow patterns. Like, you know how basically a tornado evolves. And to disrupt it doesn't require anything like the energy that's contained in the active tornado. But still, we're probably talking about having to put gigawatts for a prolonged period of time over an area. We just don't have the laser capabilities to do that. I think, who was it that just recently put up, was it, what's the competitor for SpaceX?
Blue Origin?
Blue Origin, yeah. They just put up that huge satellite that's going to be doing global surface monitoring.
Okay.
It's in a sun-synchronous
okay.
orbit,
Yep.
which basically means as the Earth turns, it's constantly moving around the orange, so it's always seeing the Earth in sunlight, or at least that side. It's peeling around the surface of the baseball as it's moving around. It's able to detect like surface movements and surface shifts down to like the centimeter level. I think very advanced systems that can predict the kind of conditions that are going to be not just likely, but almost imminent for tornadoes and severe weather like hailstorms and that sort of thing. Those sorts of satellites becoming very, very inexpensive to put up means that you get real-time active notifications of the disasters that are coming. You can run into the basement. It just occurred to me there's something else.
Well,
If you remember the tsunami off of Russia, apparently because of the earlier earthquakes that they had in Japan, it was about 20 years ago, they put in a warning system. 3 minutes, 180 seconds after the earthquake was detected, not after they distributed warnings or whatever.
right.
Alarms were going off all over Japan. 180 seconds later, they were warning the entire country of Japan that we were facing potentially tsunamis. That kind of capability being available for all kinds of disasters almost instantly on everybody's phone, no matter where you are, that is the technology that I think has more value than trying to stop a tornado in a place where you have to fly planes or trucks or bring boats to deploy your gigawatt lasers. I don't think that's practical.
There were a couple questions relating to the catamaran, just because everything is always a little bit delayed.
Okay, yeah.
Just want to make sure I'm getting the right one. From Jez, if your hydrofoil were shaped so that as it rises, more comes out of the water, reducing the lift should be possible? Question mark. No electronic control required.
I thought about that too, because I thought, well, the limiting factor, remember how I said as the angle goes up, eventually it's going to pop down? Well, the reason it pops down is because it loses lift. You've essentially, half of the hydrofoil is now above the water. You wouldn't want that state, though, because once you get to that state, you're essentially riding on the waves and any kind of irregularities in the water, the bow wash from the two hulls that are coming across it. So you're going to get a whole bunch of really messy water at that point, and you're probably going to lose control. It's going to be bouncing all over the place. That was my original thought, which seemed like, oh, it's an elegant solution. It won't go too high. Yeah, but it won't be stable either. So ultimately, I think you want it underneath the water and you want fine control of the angle of attack. You could even go the next step and use it to stabilize the boat, kind of like they have stabilizers on large yachts that can be used to prevent them from rocking so people don't get sick and that they're not, pitching in the waves. Once you put this down into clean water, you can use it and manipulate it. So even though the boat's trying to pop over the waves as it's moving, you're producing the opposite force with your hydrofoil if you can actuate quickly enough, and you can make the ride smooth. So once you've got the capabilities, now you can apply it to multiple problems.
Well, relating to the stability, Dan commented maybe a dihedral on the hydrofoil to stabilize the craft.
Yeah, but what we're talking about when we're talking dihedral, instead of the straight hydrofoil, which was super easy to make, basically what you do is say you cut the hydrofoil in half, taper the two sides so that what you end up with is sort of like a V. And this is often used, like if you look at the tail of an airplane, you'll see a lot of the tails actually have a dihedral to them because it's a natural stabilizer. I'm not so much talking about tip. I'm talking about pitching. And so I don't know that the dihedral would help us, other than it might decrease the violence of the breaking of the surface, because you start to break the surface near the edges and then you break the surface closer to the bottom. It would be a better solution than the one that I did, which is the simple hydrofoil. But I still think you probably still want to control it. It's a thought. I mean, this is something we can bring up with Lars, too. It's like, it's not a bad idea, but I don't know if it would solve the ultimate problem we have, which is surface breaking. But it might be enough. If we can't make it work robotically, it might be enough. And Lars says, yeah, that's easy. I'll just cut this and re-weld it.
Right, yeah. And again, yeah, that would be a good use.
And I'm not dumping off on these people. These are smart people, Paul, Lars, Chris, these people that we've collaborated with. They got smarts. And so rather than me trying to learn something that they already know, it's like I'm calling on the smarter people in the room for these projects.
And that relates to, we've gotten a lot of comments, or at least a few, relating
a
to
lot or one.
Everybody wanting you to continue with either the heavy lift or the hybrid drone project.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we haven't really, it's still somewhere in the barn and stored away somewhere.
Yeah, it's upstairs.
But we haven't gone into that in a long time, so we'd have to sort of relearn a lot of that sort of stuff. But the main problem that I remember we were having is the stabilization, just with the giant wingspans. It seemed to take too long to readjust the motors, and then it would just crash.
Yeah.
So that was the main reason we didn't continue that. But you did finish the actual engine, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's just we never actually tested it.
Yeah, actually, we had a couple of variations that didn't go all the way to completion. One was the gasoline motor-powered generator that would provide the energy instead of batteries, so that we could use small batteries as sort of launch backup, extra power boosts, but that we didn't have to mount these very expensive and multiple batteries on this thing. We could just use a gas-fired generator.
Yeah, right.
The other thing, though, you're right about the control, is that because we wanted it efficient, and this is one of those things where it's like you think you're doing something right and you're actually hurting yourself, I got these enormous rotors. I built these very, very efficient rotors, but they had a very large diameter. Larger diameter, more lift per watt. But the problem is they also have a lot of rotational inertia. And so when this thing is sort of unstable and you're beginning to pitch, or beginning to reach a state where you really got to correct this quickly, you try to add power to the low rotor or the low powered side, it took too long. And so then what would happen is once you enacted that rotor and you began to lift, then it took too long for it to slow down and it would begin to oscillate. And so I think we overplayed it in terms of how much efficiency I was hoping for, not looking into the idea that you need very, very fast response in order to maintain stability. I think the better solution, rather than just trying to force that, would be to include small and large rotors. Like I think somebody did this once, but I haven't seen them elsewhere. Like large helicopter rotors, like one that provides 90% of the lift. And then the smaller rotors are the ones that provide all the control.
Right. Okay.
That gave you very fast response, but very high efficiency. I haven't seen any drones like that. I don't know if it's just that it's cheaper to make all the motors the same and, stamp them out. But if I was going to custom make them, I'd probably do it that way.
I do know, I was looking up a few weeks ago, I think DJI has made, for like agricultural purposes.
Yeah, right.
But they made a couple, I think, hybrid drones where it is gasoline powered that just recharges a battery and everything. But yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't use that in a way to, power one large propeller and then, use the other ones for control.
Right.
It
And
seems
you
like
could
a
even
simpler-
mount them at slight angles so that the torque, a helicopter obviously has a tail rotor so the whole helicopter doesn't spin. Well, you could obviously mount those small motors at like a 10-degree angle. So they're always trying to make it rotate the other direction.
Right,
So
right.
as you're lifting, at least when everything is sort of in hover mode, it's neutral.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So that might be one way to compensate for that. But I think that would be how I would want to take that project is something like that.
So a very different question. I kind of
Okay.
laughed when I read it, but from Sam J. Again, thank you very much. I think it says that you're the second top fan, so thanks for that.
You're the second top fan?
Well, the second, there is a first. I forgot who it is, but
Okay.
might be trivial. But any thoughts making better car washer fluid? Something that cleans as good as commercial options, but doesn't leave behind stains on the glass or damage the clear coat.
You know what would be the first thing I would do? Like, say someone said, okay, this is your assignment, do it. I'd probably buy just about everything out there
Right. Okay.
and analyze, like, what are they using? And then maybe just take some simple panels of, very dirtyable glass. Like plexiglass is good because it gets dirty so easily and dusty. And maybe glass because you don't want to scratch everything up. And then see if you were to apply some dirt, which works the best, and see if you see a commonality to it. I think once you know what sort of kind of works and what doesn't and why, then you can start to look at surfactants that maybe prevent you from getting that sort of droplet formation. It stays as a film and evaporates as a film, so you don't get water spots. Another thing might be to include agents that leave some sort of a coating that kind of like what is it, OptiClean? What's the stuff? I've even
For
used it.
cleaning lenses.
Yeah, I forget what that is, but it's a film. It's really kind of neat. You paint it on. It's OptiClean. I've got to remember it. But you paint it on. It's almost like nail polish. It smells like nail polish, and you let it dry. And then when you peel off the film, you take off everything, and I mean laser clean. There's nothing left behind. And I've never really seen that for automotive use. What is it called?
There is something called OptiClean, but I'm not sure if it's ProMaster. I
Yeah.
looked up OptiClean lens cleaner, and that came up.
It's probably the same sort of formula. But I think a film type cleaner might be kind of interesting too, because it's a little bit more work. But if you want to clean off something that isn't a whole car and you want it super clean, that stuff is very expensive. But the way it smells like it's mostly solvent. And I suspect if you found out how it was made, and I can do that, then it might be possible to make it at home in, liter-sized jugs, and then you can use it to clean your home windows or whatever else you want. And it is a lot of fun because you just take this stuff and it's all wrinkly and pink, and then you just peel it off, and it's wow. It's a great.
The only thing with something like that, though, you don't want to clog the pumps. I'm guessing they obviously designed, that washer fluid to be very well. If that creates like this film, I don't know what would happen if you leave it, exposed inside of the reservoir. If it'll clog up or thicken or something like that.
Yeah, if you were to use it as a spray, which I probably wouldn't do because, whenever you spray something, it gets everywhere. You don't see it. You're just sort of spraying it here, but then you notice the droplets all around. You don't want that residue to harden all over your paint or all over your seats or all over something else. beside the window, you probably want to apply it like these companies make this stuff, where they have a little applicator brush, and you can just brush it on your surface like this, so it doesn't get everywhere. And so I would think what I'd do is get one of those cheap foam brushes from the hardware store, or just a cheap brush, and I would just use it, and then when I'm done, I'd throw the brush away.
Yeah.
Or put it in the bottle along with it and close it in, because you don't want to spray something that's going to be there forever. One thing nice about that stuff, and for the optics use, you put it on, you can leave it on for years, and it will protect the glass or the surfaces while it's there, like you've just put a plastic bag around it. So that's kind of another nice feature, is it can be used to store optics and high performance materials.
Okay, another one, unrelated, but thanks for the 5385. Curious Droid made an interesting video about creating plasma in midair by converging a laser to a point. Is that something you're interested in?
Sure. I've actually done it a lot of times. It's actually a phenomenon that I think it's 40 gigawatts per square centimeter is the point, the energy level you need to cause the ionization of air. And it sounds like a lot, 40 billion watts per square centimeter. It actually isn't that hard. Doing it with a continuous wave laser, that would be coming up close to impossible for anybody short of like a national lab. But doing with a pulsed laser is almost trivial. You can do it even with a nitrogen laser, which produces a relatively low quality beam. But when you're producing the pulses in, say, a microsecond, now you've got to reach 40,000 watts per square centimeter. And if you're focusing down to 1,000th of a square centimeter, you need a 40 joule pulse. These things become pretty practical. They're kind of neat. And actually, I think, what is the automotive company? What's the spark plug company? NSK, NKS?
I couldn't tell you.
There was a recent article, or short article, in Photonics Spectra. I just saw it last week. This is what I read for relaxation. And they were advertising their development of laser-based spark plugs for firing engines. These were designed for very large engines, that kind that, 250, like 500 kilowatts, that kind of pretty big stationary engines. Not indium spark plugs, NKS.
Well, this is NGK. I looked up for laser-based too, so.
Just laser-based spark plug.
Yeah, that's.
And yeah. But nevertheless, they did some analysis, and they found, surprisingly, in certain conditions, it worked better than the regular electrical arc spark plugs. And in others, depending on the pressure, combustion pressures, it worked better or not quite as well, but it was all relatively close. We're talking 5 or 10% differential. But that's actually in a combustion chamber firing, 50 times a second, and they're doing it with spark plugs. So that process is pretty well established in industry. To see it in life, real life, it is kind of interesting because you don't expect it. But it is a well-known phenomenon.
Okay, another one. I like all these very unrelated questions.
Yeah, I like diversity.
Yeah. G Money with the 5, thank you very much. A cured urethane softens at a certain temp, but saw it leak past gasket with high-frequency mechanical stress at way lower temp. Ideas on why or how to fix it?
Read that again.
Yep. Let me go back. A cured urethane softens at a certain temp, but saw it leak past a gasket.
Saw it? He saw it?
Saw it, I'm guessing means, but I saw it leak past a gasket with high-frequency mechanical stress at way lower temps. Ideas on why or how to fix it?
Well, let's assume that what you describe is absolutely accurate. In other words, you didn't miss something, and let's start with that assumption. I would think, depending on the frequency, that even something that seems soft, like the urethane, because of its mass, at certain frequencies, it may appear or behave like it's rigid because the mass is so great. So if you've got the urethane gasket compressed properly in order to resist a certain amount of pressure continuously or periodically, if you start to vibrate the surface or the edge, you might find that it will actually cause flexion in the two components that are compressing the urethane, the bread, and the sandwich. It may be that those things are actually moving fast enough, depending on the frequency, that they're moving faster than the urethane can spring and follow it. Does that make sense? So it might be that if you did a frequency response leakage test where you had either a electromagnetic driver, just like a speaker, or some sort of system that you're using where you could produce a high frequency vibration of various frequencies, there may be a cutoff where up to a certain point works great, beyond that point works lousy. And so that might explain it. That would be how I would first approach it. The other thing you could also consider is taking a lot more pressure for sealing, but they may have vibrational sort of resistance because they're no longer springy. It's a solid, it's a sandwich built around similar materials so that you're not going to get the plates to vibrate and the metal to vibrate differently. So it may track the vibrations better, but also you're not depending on compressive forces, which could be relieved by the vibration. So I'd start out with frequency analysis. I'd look at maybe a copper gasket as just a solution. Maybe you don't need the urethane. You also might look at different types of organic seals that actually adhere to the surface, something that actually sticks to it might allow it to pull the urethane apart and keep the seal. And then obviously there's other ways to seal. You could add multiple gaskets where you have 1, 2, 3 rings, but that means machining if you're just using a flat sheet. So that's kind of how I would approach it.
Yeah, so we got another one. There was a slight issue with the stream. It didn't drop or anything like that. It was just buffering for a bit, but it seems to be back to normal.
Oh,
hi. So we got a 10 from Bob. Bob,
Okay.
thank you. Are
Thanks.
you familiar with I2C _ Jason? Guessing he's a YouTuber. I'm not familiar with him.
No.
Okay. He's working on cavitation with LENR for power generation. Very interested in your thoughts on it. Perhaps a collab.
I'll look into it.
Yeah, I haven't heard of him either, but
Yeah, it's funny when you said it, and then I kept thinking about it. It's like I might have, but I may be like combining other channels and just imagining it. So I'll look it up.
okay. And then thanks for the 5 Wooten. Any plans on using the detonation engine for a flight demonstration or flight with a small cargo / load? Yeah, I don't want to.
You got a big backyard.
Yeah.
That did get some local attention.
Oh, yeah.
Not much, but we only fired it like 30 times or something like that. We could. One of the things that we did when we built that, and just so you kind of have an idea of like a little bit of the philosophy, sometimes I'll build something which is not designed to be used practically, but is the best way to demonstrate a principle. So I build it big and heavy and structurally sound. I don't have to over-engineer, the components, and I know it's going to last forever. It's also big enough that you can see the phenomena, but it's not so big that it becomes, a disaster and we get the fire department here every time we run. So the engine that I built was not what I would consider in any way optimized for any kind of propulsion system, simply because it's way too heavy, way heavier than I believe it needs to be. Especially the thrust tube. That thing, I think, had a wall thickness that's approaching a centimeter or something like that. That whole thing probably weighed 25 kilograms. It was heavy. But the detonation wave that comes out of them is applying its energy pretty much downstream. And so it may turn out, and it's actually relatively cool. It's surprising that the pipe doesn't get very warm. All that energy is going out the back in velocity, which is exactly what you want. So I have a suspicion that that tube is not only way overbuilt, but may not even need to be necessarily built out of metal. That is probably what I would do. I'd stick with the ignition chamber. That really worked well. It's not that massive. It's nice and strong. It resists the pre-detonations. And then the detonation tube, I would probably look to lighten it at least to aluminum and potentially to some sort of like polyimide type of fiber, maybe even a carbon fiber, but the polyimide is tougher. It's less likely to fracture, and see how long it lasts. That's what I think I would do first.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting. I'm just looking at to see if there's anything here that's related to that. It seems like there's no issues with the live anymore, so that's good.
Good.
Someone asked you, no, I don't know what it actually is, but have you looked into LENR in general? LENR. Low energy nuclear reactions? I'm guessing that's what it...
You know, for this answer, either I'm going to have to lie or
Yeah, I don't think AI would help you with this either.
no. I think we're just going to sidestep that one.
Yeah, well, there's no other questions. Well, here's something unrelated. Any chance for more reflux distillation vids? Recipe for apple pie moonshine would be lovely.
Yeah, it actually would be good. I like that. It's pretty tasty.
So do you think you'll do more distillation vids?
Oh, yeah.
Or?
Yeah, definitely. Don't know what we should do. We'll probably, now that we have the centrifuge,
Right, yeah.
and you guys will get to see that in a couple of weeks, and we can centrifuge our beverages very easily, and that will make that very easy. I'm tempted to look into sort of non-traditional types of beverage fermentation and distillation. And some of them would be, involving fruits that people don't typically use, and not getting really weird, like trying to make, alcohol from old money or something like that. It's like, clickbait, but it's not interesting.
I wonder if there's something that you could recreate from that channel that we follow,
Max
tasting,
Miller?
tasting history with Max Miller.
Yeah.
I like his channel. He's good, and I like the background that he gives. But I wonder if there's some, ancient Roman, fermented beverage or distilled beverage that you'd be able to, reproduce.
Yeah, that would be actually kind of cool. We could just scan through a few of those and see. Yeah, I think I will do that because we have been focusing a lot on the energy experiments, and those, like the sake, it was fun to return to that and look into these things, and obviously you end up with a product that you can use. But the distillation of something unusual that maybe hasn't been around for a long time or has historical significance, or maybe a culturally significant beverage, like something that the Mongolians or the old Russians or the Prussians used to eat or drink, or something from Central Africa, some sort of weird fruit that we don't see very much of but is still being used, might be kind of interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Any legal problems with distilling at home?
No, because whenever we distill on the channel, we're actually distilling non-ethanol liquid. So that's how we're covering the physics, we're covering the engineering and the process, but we're not actually making a drinkable beverage. We can ferment on camera, and we can do that legally, but we don't want to get into the sort of the weird legal thing of distillation. So,
would you do any just general fermenting, or would you always want to use the you would actually want to distill something?
I like the fermenting a lot because of the fact that the distillation always tends to sort of, it concentrates it, but doesn't necessarily make it more interesting. I think it actually reduces the interest of the flavors. Like when you think about it, it's like with the fermentation, you get all that aroma and all those flavors that are sort of left in the pot. And what you end up with is high alcohol content and some of the more volatiles that end up in the final liquid. I'm not really a proponent. Like, I like beer, I like wine, I like sake. I don't really like the hard beverages very much because they seem very strong and my tongue gets numb. when I drink them, and so I don't really think I appreciate them. Like, I can't tell the difference between really cheap whiskey and expensive whiskey, or if I do, I wouldn't pay for the expensive stuff. But beer, like, oh yeah, and wine and sake and that sort of thing, it's like, yeah, I can taste the subtleties. So just personally, distillation, I think, is an interesting process. But for my own purposes, and I don't know if you agree with me, but I like fermented beverages more than I like distilled beverages.
No, I agree. Or at least mixed drinks or something like that, not
Yeah.
just some straight like
Gotta
bourbon or something.
Got to add something to it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew. Isn't that originally what that used to be? It was moonshine. Mountain Dew was the.
I think
thing
they may have like called it that, like
Yeah.
as a way to get around the, like as a code word for what
You
it
think
was. I'm not
this
sure.
came first, or the Mountain Dew?
I think the Mountain Dew, the alcohol version, and then that came.
Yes.
They could also be completely unrelated.
But anyway,
But someone mentioned
we digress.
someone mentioned absinthe. But what I
Oh,
found
yeah.
interesting is I brought up the tasting history. I like his website too because you can look up all the recipes. I'm
Still
not
it
sure if
did
you've
it.
seen Still it. Okay.
Still, it did it.
Well, here a traditional French style absinthe cocktail.
Yeah,
We can make something like that. I don't know.
yeah.
Something
Yeah, it's
interesting.
wormwood. I think that was the one that had the bad reputation, because it's an anise tasting, or like licoricey tasting, mild hint of licorice. But the wormwood apparently is a psychoactive medication,
Okay.
and so the concept was like they wanted to put it in the drink, and I think originally absinthe was sort of marketed as sort of like a health spirit.
Okay,
You know, you take
yeah,
it for what
like almost
ails you.
everything.
Yeah, that kind of thing. I got the rheumatism, and so you'd end up drinking your absinthe until you fell asleep at the wheel. No. I'm behind the horse. But anyway, but the wormwood was the one that I think had the bad reputation, and I think it was overblown because I think they used that to try to limit its production. I don't know that it was actually as bad as they said, although it did have some of those properties. But I don't know if nowadays, can you actually buy wormwood? Could you do it the Max Miller way, the way they did it, or would
Yeah,
you
I
have
don't
to
know.
make, a modern version of it? I'd do it either way because I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It might be something sort of like where you can't really get root beer made with actual sarsaparilla anymore. I don't know if that you can also like source somehow, or if you have to, get it shipped from, a different country that allows it.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
That might be kind of fun actually to make.
Yeah,
Like
root beer.
root
Yeah,
beer.
Yeah.
Doesn't even have alcohol, or does it?
No.
The original root beer? Like,
I don't know.
when you were using
No.
sarsaparilla,
No.
did it have
No,
alcohol?
no, I don't think I ever did.
Because they have ginger beer, they have
Yeah,
root
yeah.
beer. None of them have alcohol, so the fact that it says beer doesn't necessarily mean
Yeah, I-
fermented,
Well, ginger ale
barley.
too. It's also not ale.
Ginger-
so
right,
it's like all
yeah,
of the
that-
names.
Yeah,
Mountain Dew. It's not actual dew.
these are soft drinks, right?
Yeah, right.
Instead of hard drinks.
Sure. So thanks for the 5 Wooten. Would you be open to try a sodium, potassium, magnesium mixed solid rocket propellant with hydrogen for a rocket engine? I can read that again if you want.
Sodium?
Sodium, potassium, magnesium
Okay.
mixed solid rocket propellant with hydrogen.
Let me think for a sec. Okay, so the hydrogen is the fuel. The sodium and the potassium and the magnesium, are you burning them in hydrogen? See, what I'm not sure about is those will burn very nicely in oxygen. They'll even rip the oxygen off of water, for example, and that's how you make, that's how you make fire, by dropping a lump of potassium, say, into water. But the concept of using the hydrogen in addition to that, I don't think I would, simply because in order to make a rocket engine, this isn't a microscopic slide experiment where you take a gram of this and a gram of that, like I did for the high velocity powders with the hammer. Remember?
Yeah.
I won't use the words,
Yep.
but when I did that sort of thing, I'm using like a sample that was, 1 sprinkle of salt. But if you want a rocket engine, you're going to have, 100 grams of sodium metal or potassium or I don't think I would do that. Part of the reason that I really like the hybrid rocket engines, I mean, for amateurs, I'm not sure why it hasn't taken over, is because when you have a large rocket engine, all ready to go, and all you need is a fuse, you've got a very large incendiary device. And that's actually something I'm going to have to talk to Alex about, is that we've got a lot of old rocket engines around the shop that are quite old now.
Yeah.
And you got to do something about them, because obviously they can become a fire hazard. They may be, unstable. How do you dispose of them? I wouldn't even want to like put them on a bench and sort of cut through them. And, can you soak them in water or, boil them or, it's like, it's an interesting problem. But the point is, with the hybrid rocket engines, what's so great is if you're not flowing nitrous through them, you disconnect it, you have an enormous candle. That's it. It's not dangerous at all. So it's very nice that you could store it, and when a rocket doesn't fire off, and now it's sitting there on the pad, and you're not sure, and then you go and approach it close with your eye, and you end up with it, in the emergency room. I like the idea of it fails safely. And so that's a really strong argument for the hybrid rocket. I think what I would look at is different types of fuels to burn with the nitrous, or maybe potentially another pressurized liquid fuel that you could use. Use pressurized nitrogen or something to drive the propane into the nitrous oxide or something, where it's all liquid and you produce the thrust. The nice thing about the nitrous is it has a relatively high pressure in the tank. So you're talking about, 50 atmospheres of pressure? That's getting close to where you want to be in a combustion chamber in a rocket. It'd be nice to even be higher. But if you have fuels like, say, propane or butane, they're going to be operating at maybe a fifth of that pressure. And obviously you can't flow them into a combustion chamber that is running at a higher pressure than they are. So you'd have to pressurize those things, but that wouldn't be that hard to do. And as you can imagine, that might be really interesting to have an all liquid fueled rocket without turbopumps. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, I do too. I agree. And thank you very much, Alex Ark, again. I've seen you here a couple times. I doubt you're going to answer what the number might have been, but I think you have.
Question,
yeah. Have you ever, have any of you, I haven't, but have you ever taken a proper IQ test?
Yeah, I've taken a couple. Why do you ask? Do you think it's deteriorating? From the beginning of the channel to now, like right now, not a good idea.
Yeah.
Early on in the channel, early on in the video, I probably would have been better.
I think.
I have.
Yeah, I think he intended that as a compliment, but.
I know, but
Yeah, that's funny. So we've been on for a while. I'm not going to end it just yet, but I'm thinking we'll probably be signing off in about 10 minutes.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you guys want to get any completely unrelated questions or something that you can think of before the end, we'll make sure to answer that. But just try to make sure you get it in before we go off. And there is a little bit of a delay of maybe 20, 30 seconds. So don't wait until the last minute.
I had a thought right now, and maybe something we can just discuss with everybody.
Yep.
I think the air conditioning video that we're going to be posting, I don't know if we're going to be able to have it ready for next Saturday. Okay.
Probably not.
Because we'll film on Monday, we'll
Yeah.
probably film again on Thursday, then you've got to edit it, and unless everything goes absolutely perfect.
And it's a very long one because
Right.
of the filling process of the whole,
Right.
digging and filling process of the whole is a very long time lapse that I have to, make a little bit more succinct.
But I'm 99% sure we will be ready for the following Saturday.
Yeah.
So what I was thinking is maybe we don't do a live stream next Saturday evening because we intend to do live streams after any video that we post on a Saturday, because
Right.
that gives us the opportunity to really talk about that topic and go as deep as you want. It's fresh in our minds.
Yep.
We can go through that, and that would be a very good live stream video. But I'm not sure if we should do one next Saturday until we do that. We should just plow ahead with that video.
Yeah, because I'm guessing there won't be a whole lot of, we can cover, some people that weren't on here might have some different questions.
Right.
But it might bring up the same questions again, and we might not have enough, to go over, talk.
Right, and I think it'll also give us another day. I mean, even though it is a Saturday evening, it gives us another day to work on that. You can spend your Saturday evening editing instead of here
Yeah.
and get the job done. So
Right.
I think let's get some questions in here that anybody wants. You were thinking of ask the questions, and we'll try to like clean this up over the next 10, 15 minutes or so, and then we'll see you in 2 weeks in the evening at 6 o'clock after we do the video. Our neighbor next door is washing cars. He's got a big Charger back there, and he's
Yeah, I wish you
showing
could
off his
actually see
engine.
it. I don't think you can. No.
No.
Oh, well, you can see sort of the reflection,
Yeah.
but whatever.
But anyway, and so we'll do that next Saturday. We'll be releasing the video in the morning, 2 weeks from today. We'll be releasing the video in the morning, and then in the evening, we'll do the live stream associated with that.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions that didn't get answered here, we don't have to just cover that. It's just that we will cover that at that time.
Just before I get to the 5, and thank you very much, Bernologist. I'll get to that,
like
in
that.
just a second. Because something I found interesting, because I think you had either talked about doing it or we already did it, like not as a video, but just doing some tests. But from your old LRAD videos, have you ever thought of a satellite dish as a personal reflector back to the operator?
Yeah, if you remember, obviously you know the video, but if you remember it clearly enough, part of the thing that we did when we were experimenting to see how well you could protect somebody from this type of acoustic attack, Alex was dressed up in his helmet and his earphones and everything, and then had a riot shield, you know, one of these cylindrical segments, so that it curved in only one direction. It was like part of the can. And as he was moving closer, I don't know how we got to the step where for some reason he had turned it around. I don't know if he had leaned it against his legs or something like that, because why would you ever hold it from the back? But when he did, all of a sudden, I, the operator that was standing next to the acoustic projector, was just floored by the amount of increased sound because it was reflecting back at me. So that's the principle. I think a radar dish, like even those solar cooker dishes, like that we had when we were cooking out in the sun and then we were reflecting the LEDs into the clouds, that was like last year, those things would probably work very, very well. The problem, though, in this kind of a situation is that who's using LRAD and why? And who are you, if you're not the operator, is going to be somebody who is going to be on the street, or you're going to be coming out of a building, or you're in your home or something like that. To have this large, 4 foot, 5 foot, 2 meter diameter parabolic dish with you, first of all, it would work very well, but you would also be the obvious source of a lot of attention. So that probably wouldn't be practical. It would also be very inconvenient. The riot shield, you throw it in the back of your car, your truck, you lean it up against a wall. But this big dish, it's like, almost the size of this table, wouldn't be practical to use. So effectively, work great. Practically, not what you probably want to have in your back pocket.
Okay, and then to get on to Bernologist, thanks again for the 5. Can you do a video on, and I assume you mean DIYing, a RC turbojet using metal 3D printed parts such as a metal 3D printed diffuser and turbine guide vanes, etc.?
Yeah, we don't have access to metal 3D printing. We have plastic 3D printing, and the precision there is not enough for that when you're talking about, getting down to micron level precision, because you're balancing a rotor that's turning at, 70,000 RPM.
You could always order it, from a company that does that, obviously.
Right. Yeah, if you had a file and you sent it off and they sent it back.
Right.
I'm not sure what the sort of post-machining on that stuff is. I've seen 3D metal parts, and they don't look much different than your plastic printed parts. They're just out of metal. And I think a lot of times, at least in my experience, I'm not that familiar with it, they require post-machining. Like they'll do 90% of the metal work, remove it, and then you put them in precision mills or lathes in order to get the final dimensions down to a micron or so. I don't know if you can get final parts at that level of precision from anything other than some state-of-the-art system in a research lab. You probably can't, but maybe.
Okay, yeah, I'm just seeing a few recommendations for companies like JLC. I think it's JLC. Yeah, we can look into that and see how easy, and maybe it's different from the last time you tried to.
Yeah, because I
order
haven't looked at it in
Yeah.
a couple of years.
Sure. Yeah, actually, there's a bunch of recommendations. I'll look into that too.
Okay. You're the
Ba-ba-ba.
3D printer guy anyway.
Yeah, right. And that might be something where you could be able to, build a test model of a plastic part and make sure it's the right size, everything fits together, but you don't actually use that as any part of the turbojet.
Well, you actually could. If you were to say you built the same size
Yeah.
turbojet that we used,
Yeah.
what makes it operate is obviously you got compressor, burn, spans, pressure goes up, then you've got your turbine. And what if you just had a different heat source? But it doesn't have to be a flame.
Okay.
So what if you were to put inside of there, just as a first initial attempt, just a heat source like a heating element? Almost like
Okay,
you
yeah.
use in a,
Okay.
very controllable, you
Well.
add heat, and as you're adding heat, you start the thing up, and it may be almost just a tabletop model of something cute, because you're not going to produce significant thrust and pressure levels or whatever. But it may be self-sustaining. It may be enough to overcome the resistance in the bearings so that the end drives the front, and it actually does produce a hot wind coming out of the
Okay,
back.
yeah.
That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
especially if you had the files and you could share them with people who have the printers.
Yeah, right.
And
right,
anybody could build one of these things for their kids for Christmas. That
Yeah,
kind
no,
of
that
thing.
is a good idea.
Yeah, it is a good idea.
Plus, they make much hotter temperature, resistant filaments. So you just get whatever the best one is, and then just make sure
And
your
you don't
heating
even
coil
need the
doesn't.
hot temperature stuff for most of it. Like,
Sure,
say, the
sure.
outer casing, the front
Yeah, yeah.
blades, and everything like that. If, say, it's very expensive or it's pesky to work with,
Right.
you could just build a turbine blade and maybe a combustion chamber liner.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
But keep it honest. In other words, you don't then put, like, metal coatings on
Yeah,
the inside.
right,
It's
right,
like,
right.
okay, it looks plastic, but
Yeah.
it's actually,
Yeah, it's 3D printed except for all the important parts.
yeah, the shipping box is 3D printed.
Yeah, right. That's close. Okay, Will, thanks for the two. Do you have any ideas on how to improve 3D printing?
What is the biggest problem you see with the system? What's the one that you have?
I actually forgot the name of it. Bamboo Lab.
Okay.
X1C Carbon or something like that.
What is the biggest limitation you see with its function?
I mean, it's pretty much perfect because it has its own LiDAR and everything. It tests the first printing layer and that sort of thing. Probably just the issue with sometimes if you get some fray, filaments where it didn't attach correctly, and then it continues to try to print and it gets wound up in the
Okay.
parts, the moving parts. But on it, once it starts
Say
printing
it's
and it's
working
going,
the way it's supposed to, and you don't get like a glitch.
with all the filaments that I have used, I haven't really gotten any clogs or anything like that. It's fairly easy to, take out the one that's currently being used and replace it with a different one. The cutting and everything. So unless maybe there's some foreign filaments that I haven't used or that are rare, that maybe they get clogged very easily. So you have to, try to print, especially if it's a large part that, takes 16 hours. You might have to redo it, 4 times, and then you end up wasting a bunch of expensive material.
What about
But-
the platter or the tray or
Yeah.
whatever it is that's elevating? Is that powered by steel, or is it rubber, pulleys or whatever? Is there any give in that where it could be not super perfect level? Or when it's
No,
supposed
and
to
it
go up 8
it
microns?
auto levels every time
Oh.
you start beforehand too, where it uses the nozzle to test each part of the panel to make sure that it's level. The only thing that you have to do, with the steel rods that, the gantry and everything, all you have to do is make sure those are lubricated once a month. So it's I don't see any problems with that. The only thing that would be nice is if you could get a reasonably cheap at home metal 3D printer.
Yeah.
Instead of spending $50,000 or $100,000 on one.
Yeah, I don't even
It's
know.
not really an
how
improvement. That
do
would
those,
just be.
Is it
cost
all
saving.
powdered metal? Because what I'm thinking about is they use lasers, and only ones I know about use lasers. And they sort of spray a powdered metal, and it's then melted by the laser precisely to do it. But is it always, it's not like a wire feed, almost like a wire feed welder? Maybe there
I don't
are
think
some
so.
like that.
There
And
was
still
one that
use a
is-
laser or some heat
yeah.
source like that, but I'm not sure.
I forgot. I'm not going to look it up now because I'll probably find the wrong one. But I did see a video of like a company that was trying to do that, but it's still very difficult because there is the sort of how you said the post like machining that you have to do.
Right.
It's like once it's printed, you have all these not burrs, but
They're like
excess
lines or-
things
yeah.
that you then have to put it in a chemical bath. You know,
Yeah.
for an hour, and then some UV, light source, and then back to the chemical bath, and it's a process. It's a lot harder than the simple, plastic 3D printing. But I guess
Yeah.
that would be the only improvement that I could think of.
Yeah, I know a lot of the laser development for 3D printers are they're trying to make the lasers better. Like for example, you think of a laser beam as just coming down to a point and it's hot at the point. But what they found is that if you want to speed up the operation, just adding more power doesn't help, because what ends up happening is just burn through your part, or it gets too hot at that location and it doesn't melt and glue, it vaporizes and it's destroying it. So what they do is what's called beam shaping. They manipulate the focus of the beam. They even have AI control for this, where they can cause the beam to elongate or break into like 4 or 5 beams. So you're actually printing 4 points from the same laser, or you're using a line shape so that you can go across a part much more rapidly. You can use much more power because you're basically covering a much larger area. Beam shaping is sort of what it seems like they're doing primarily to improve 3D metal printing. Beside that, I can't think of anything else that you would do to try to make that more approachable, other than we'd have to look into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe even find out from companies like, what are the break points?
Yeah.
Because it would be
It would
great
be
if you could
interesting to-
convert something. Like if you could use a 3D plastic metal printer, a
Yep.
plastic printer,
Yeah.
and modify it in some way
Right. Right.
by using, say, one of our lasers, putting it in there, and then getting a powder sprayer or something, so that you can, for the effort involved and the money involved in the laser or something, build something for $500 on an existing platform that's got all the software and the LiDAR and the leveling and
Yeah.
all the other components, and you're just modifying what's being put down.
With how precise it is, I think it would be a challenge, but
Yeah.
you can always try it. So Wooten, thanks again for the 2. I assume you're talking about the RC turbojet. Not sure. Try dimpling on on air intake similar to a golf ball to cool it more.
No, it causes the small interruptions, maintains laminar flow, and prevents disconnection of the air, because if the air is too laminar and smooth, it can actually peel away. And so the golf ball bumps. That's why they put bumps on a golf ball, is to stabilize the air that moves around it and actually lowers the resistance. Yeah, it's a good idea, because at that point you're definitely subsonic. You're drawing the air into the engine. I don't know why they don't do that, because it would seem like it'd be a relatively easy thing to do. It may be that they did it and they found that they couldn't see much of a benefit. Maybe they're not getting much separation because the airflow is so slow that maybe it's not a problem. But it is a very good thing to rule out, because when you have a good idea, seems like it should work, you apply it and it turns out it's not necessary, then you know to move on.
And then Chadsby, thanks for the 2. Unrelated, but ever play with quantum dots?
No, I haven't. I've seen a number of did Lee's lab do that? A number of people have worked with quantum dots. They've made them. They've used them. No, but I never have. I've always been somewhat interested in them, but I didn't have an application for them. That's not something good for me. It means that I just haven't thought of a good idea of something to do with them that is unusual. But they are very interesting. When you get down to those size scales, things don't work the way that you originally thought they would work.
Okay. Well, if you guys have any other important questions, you can put those in now. But I think I'm gonna ramp it down in a minute or 2.
Okay. All right. So we can hang around for about 2 or 3 minutes and see if anybody's got a last question. And then, just in this time frame, again, we won't do a live stream next Saturday night. We will do a live stream in 2 Saturdays from today, and that morning we should be releasing the video that we're working on right now with the air conditioning.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and hopefully that's a good, format for all the future videos. So it's always a Saturday, which is a day where most people aren't working.
Right.
They get to see it in the morning and then ask their questions live, afterwards. They can still comment and everything. But then it's like, if you, I don't know, think of something else, you can get the answer the same day.
right, if I didn't emphasize this, it's a great opportunity to talk about that video, but it won't be limited. Anybody
Yeah,
can
sure.
ask
Yep.
about anything at any point, but we figured that that's going to be a hot topic to talk about. So if you have questions and you think, oh, I was wondering about something and I forgot to ask, or I didn't tune in, and you look at the video, this video in 3 days, we'll discuss anything you want. And if it turns out that there's so much stuff because of the video, we'll just go for 3 hours. I mean, we don't care.
Yeah, we're getting a fair number here. Yeah, and YouTube, Norwegian, YouTube did not let me know about the stream until just now. That's why I try to post the notifications the day beforehand on X. So if you check there, you'll know whether we're going live, that Saturday. There's a lot of.
But it's
random
also a
things here.
good bet.
Yeah.
Like if you're not sure and you're
Yeah.
just like, it's Saturday and I don't know if they're doing anything, takes you 3 seconds to just see 6 o'clock. It's always the same time, Eastern time. You can just check and say, oh, not this week.
Okay, I'm just going to answer a couple random ones here.
Okay.
So sorry, guys, if I don't answer every single one, or we don't. Phil, when you made graphene, you said you may do a video on gold. Any further thoughts?
No, not at this point. No.
Okay. I mistake diamond, not gold. I assume you didn't think of that either.
No, I didn't know that you meant diamond, but no, I don't think we're going to do anything more with the graphene at this point because the process that we demonstrated, was it Rice? Is out of Rice. I forgot the name of the professor, but it was the paper that they did from Rice. It was mostly to demonstrate that this technique worked. There are other types of techniques that probably produce graphene that is of higher quality and more utility because they're using graphene now in semiconductor cooling systems and electronic switches and transistors, and it's becoming pretty universal. But the kind of graphene that we were making, we wanted it only for structural purposes. And to make graphene in a way that's of value rather than just repeating the video, we'd want to make it in a new way. And I'm not aware right now of a good way that amateurs can make graphene short of having, say, a vacuum chamber, chemical vapor deposition systems, where you're basically laying down atoms onto a surface. We don't have that kind of capability. So unless we did it that way, I don't know if I want to just repeat sort of the rough and ready technique that we use that produced very good graphene and very much strengthened parts. But you've seen it. We've done it. Been there.
Paul, thanks very much for the 10. Printing with lasers, is the tech sensitive enough to utilize latent energy gaps between phases?
I doubt it. If you're, and I'm assuming you're talking electromagnetic phases of the laser, not phases of melt. But I may be wrong, and if I'm wrong, you can correct me. But the phase relationship we're talking about between light and the scale, we're talking about 500 nanometers or something like that. If you were to produce waveforms due to interference patterns. The one thing about using interference patterns with beam shaping is it's quantized. So with beam shaping and sort of mixing the phases of the light across this, you don't even want coherence. It sounds weird, but you want the laser as a heat source. You don't want it coherent because then you end up getting these weird lobes of heat and structural variations in the energy deposition because of phase interaction. So that's why they will even use dephasing lenses so that you end up with a laser beam that's no longer coherent. If you're talking about the phase between liquid, metal, and gas, I'm not aware of anybody trying to get anything more than melting the solid into a liquid. I've never heard of anybody sort of trying to work in some sort of supercooled form where you're actually dealing with metals that are liquid below their freezing point during that period. I'm guessing the two approaches because I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about with the phase, but I'm not aware enough that I can tell you more than I've just told you.
Okay, and I think maybe as sort of a last question here.
Okay.
Just because it's very general, and I saw a lot of people commenting it.
Good.
But if you're going to follow up or make another video on ultrasonic cleaners.
Oh, I'm bad. Yeah, as a matter of fact, as I was cleaning up today, as I was just going through the shelves, I saw the ultrasonic.
Mike.
Oh,
Yep.
I saw the ultrasonic. Getting near the end of the video.
Get too excited.
He's getting too excited. He's vibrating. I saw the ultrasonic cleaners that I had built and just never demonstrated. They're sitting on the shelf. And I'm not sure why, again, we just moved on to something else or we were focusing on something else. But literally, they're on the shelf. Not this shelf, but at the shop. It's a good question, and if other people have asked it, then I'm definitely going to resurrect it. I'll pull it out and see what I have to relearn about how I was going to approach this because this was a few years ago. But it does work. It's easy to do. We built a big one based on this. We just used acoustic actuators, ultrasonic actuators, and attached them to a large stainless steel basin. And that's what drove the ultrasonic system. And yeah, I'll definitely look into it.
Yeah, okay. And just the last thing, hopefully you've been watching the whole time. I think you have because I saw one of the previous things. But yes, hi, Joe Schmo. Yeah, I was waiting to see that. I'm not sure if you put that in before, but I did see your actual other comment before, but I didn't want to read that compared to the other ones because it sounded like you were talking to someone else. But anyways, yeah, no, it's good that you're watching. Hopefully you saw the whole thing and the audio and everything worked out well. So, okay. Well, I think that was successful enough.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. And this is really a kick. I'm actually really starting to enjoy this. I hope we can get some people in here to do the interviews and to do the discussions and demonstrations because it is a really good format. And if I'm enjoying this, and I really am, I'm not making this up, but this is fun, I would think other people would like to do it and participate too, to tell what they're thinking about stuff and, pick their brains about things.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can try to arrange something over the next couple of weeks and see if we can get somebody in here who has another perspective on some of the topics we've covered, or maybe just a fresh perspective on something we haven't even covered. We're definitely going to do that. This is a long-term plan.
Yeah, we already have a list of people based on what you guys have recommended and who we already know and follow. So we'll just have to send out some emails and see who's willing to join on.
Yeah. Very good. Well, thanks all again for spending your Saturdays with us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, you guys too. Make sure you stay tuned into the X account to see all our notifications and everything too.
Yeah.
All right.
Take care. Have a good one.
Bye.